Majority continues to make this a priority for their time leading the House, restricting the freedom of families to make healthcare decisions over taking real action to tackle our healthcare crisis. Seems to me that if we did a poll across the country and asked Americans what they would want us to focus on.
Now to our other top story, go ahead and check your bank account. Some people say they are already seeing their stimulus checks show up just 2 days after President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan into law. This first group of checks is going to people who have direct deposit set up through the IRS, and the next batch will be payments to taxpayers who did not provide direct deposit information with their 2019 or 2020 tax returns, and that is followed by paper checks or debit cards to those the IRS has no payment information for on file. But many still waiting, have more questions about the process, of course. So here at 11 Alive, we are where Atlanta speaks. So we are taking your questions to the experts tonight. Janu Her got some answers for you.
President Joe Biden's
It's $1,200, everybody. That is being paid out now. New stimulus payments is on the way to many of you guys. Billions of dollars have been allocated towards relief checks, and you may be able to claim a $2,000 stimulus check. Now that tax season's here, it can be easy to get lost in all the forms and applications. As a parent or guardian, you may qualify for a slew of new tax credits and deductions depending on your income level. The maximum tax credit per qualifying child is $2,000 for people 5 and under, or $3,000 for 6 and under. Additionally, you can receive a portion if you advance in the credits, as was the case last year. There are several requirements, though, to qualify for the child tax credit. The first is you must be a parent or a guardian who is filing taxes, that is, and according to the IRS, if your child dependent do qualify, they must have a social security number that is valid for employment in the U.S. They must also be under 17, and as a parent or guardian, you are eligible for the child tax credit if your adjusted gross income is less than $200,000 when filing individually, or less than $400,000 if you're filing a joint return with a spouse. And there are other state credits they may qualify for. Washington has a working families credit launch today. You can get that one too. In recent years, the effort has included changing the state's tax system to support the economic well-being. In 2021, analysis found that low-income people pay 17% of their taxes, while the middle-class people pay 11%, and the wealthiest pay just 3%. Programs like the Washington Working Families Tax Credit are riding this upside-down tax structure by making Washington tax less aggressive and more helpful to those that actually need the help, not to those that actually don't need the help. Plus, let's not forget about this. As many as 5,000 families in the county of Michigan have earned the Earned Income Tax Credit. This is a tax credit increase. The plan has been stated a priority for the Democratic-controlled legislature, and even the governor, that is since the start of the new political term last month, has approved it. If a family, for instance, is already eligible to receive the Earned Income Tax Credit, the state could tack up an extra 30%. Under the bill that passed in the Senate, if a family received $1,000 on their federal return via the Earned Income Tax Credit, they would ultimately receive another $300 on their state return to this. Federal Earned Income Tax Credit go as high as $6,000. Michigan already piggybacks off the federal tax credit and is one of the several states to do it, but it currently offers a 6% top-off, lagging behind the rate offered by most states. In a similar House version of the bill, that increase would be retroactive, so would apply for the 2022 tax season currently underway. So far, more than 70,000 Illinois residents claimed a federal earned income tax credit without claiming the state in 2022. And those who received the earned income last year meet residency and income requirements and file a return can qualify for the Illinois income tax credit. The state is just urging you that all taxpayers work together on this, as this can change each year.
Economy in the weeks and months to come. That's why House Democrats are focusing all week on easing inflation and bringing costs down. And I know that's what my Republican colleagues want to do as well. And while this may not be a perfect alternative, there are no perfect alternatives. This is a positive step towards decreasing the cost to our people of things that they must buy, fuel and food. To support that mission, I'm proud to bring the lower food and fuel contact to the floor today at Mr. Scott's request. America's farmers and ranchers have long fed our nation and indeed much of the world. Despite their essential work, however, they have often struggled to turn a reliable profit in recent years because of rising expenses associated particularly with fertilizer, whose costs have gone up very substantially as a result of the crisis that we confront. By making fertilizer more affordable and by improving farmers' access to loans for precision agricultural technology, this legislation will help lower these production costs, which burden smaller farmers and contribute to higher consumer food prices.
Much and good afternoon, Vice President Harris and First Gentleman. Well, actually, the second gentleman, but you're really my first gentleman. And ambassadors, members of Congress, thank you all for being here today. I think it's a pretty big day. Just a few months ago, I welcomed President Niinistö of Finland and the Prime Minister Andersson of Sweden to the White House to demonstrate the strong support.
So Democrats' new proposal may be blocked from passing by a few top lawmakers, and progressives are only pushing for more stimulus relief to be included in the stimulus package. Now Joe Biden is becoming more worried about the United States and how the country may be going into a recession. Now, Senate Republican John Barrasso said the new spending deal between Chuck Schumer and Manchin announced last week is far from done, very far from done, suggesting possible opposition from moderate Senator Kyrsten Sinema. Barrasso told Fox that Senator Sinema felt blindsided by the Inflation Reduction Act, which was announced last week and shocked Capitol Hill. Barrasso said of Sinema, in terms of will this pass, they need all 50 Democrats on board and in the room. They haven't had the 50 senators show up for work in well over a month, so this is far from done. Folks, we have a lot of things going on in Congress, a lot of development to talk about. Senator Sinema has so far remained publicly silent on the deal, which Manchin and Schumer announced just 2 weeks after Manchin said he would not support any climate package or tax reform given soaring inflation. The proposed $670 billion legislation, a scaled-down version of the Build Back Better, includes $370 billion for clean energy programs, another $300 billion to reduce the U.S. deficit, and $64 billion for healthcare expansion. And in this evenly divided Senate, Democrats need all 50 senators on board to push the legislation through, considering every Republican will vote against it. That makes both Manchin and Sinema crucial votes, and Barrasso said he was surprised Manchin supported the legislation. If Democrats do manage, however, to move the package forward, Barrasso argued it would inevitably hurt the economy. When asked about Manchin, Barrasso stated, "I think he's going to regret making this decision to sign on to this. Every Republican is against it because we know it's going to burn a deeper hole into the wallets and the savings account of the American people." And now, an inflation gauge that is closely tracked by the Federal Reserve jumped 6% in June from a year ago, the biggest annual increase in 4 decades. Tens of millions of renters nationwide have also faced skyrocketing prices in recent months, as pent-up demand from the crisis has collided with a shortage of supply. This is a crunch that has especially squeezed low-income tenants who risk getting pushed out of the market altogether. As of June, U.S. rents had climbed 14% above where they stood a year prior, a staggering increase by declaration, but a deceleration from the sky-high rate of 18% at the outset of 2022.
The United States had for